Challenge Cup semi-final spots up for grabs this weekend, and every team going to be taking it seriously. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. We're down to the last 8 in the Challenge Cup, and generally by this point in this competition, every team absolutely wants to be here. You can't really say that about the round of 16 or the pool stages, but yeah, by now teams thinking about potential European final, lifting a trophy, and it becomes very serious. So we're going to start with first quarterfinal on Friday, and that is an 8 o'clock kickoff at the Montpellier Stadium, and it's Ulster Rugby versus La Rochelle. So Ron O'Gara heading to Ireland with maybe not the best performing La Rochelle team, but he's a guy that he'd love to go up to Ulster and get a win there, get his team into a semi-final. Ulster have been one of the better performing Irish teams so far this year in URC and in Europe as well. Maybe form is a little bit down recently, but yet home in a quarter-final got to back themselves right. But let's have a look at how the teams got to this stage. So starting with Ulster, they started out in this competition, pool stages, home to Racing, they beat them 61-7. Then go away to Cardiff, they lose that one 29-26. Brilliant comeback win from Cardiff on that one. Then their game against the Cheetahs in Amsterdam is called off because of a frozen pitch. They're awarded 28-0 win. Finish off then at home to Stade Francais, and they beat them 26-19. Then into round of 16 against the Ospreys at home. They scraped through 28-24, and certainly lots of controversy at the end of that game. Ospreys scored a try. It was ruled as a forward pass, after the intervention of the TMO, and I said it. There's a full review of it on the channel. I said it. If you're an Ospreys fan, you're going to feel really hard done by that. I've got I had my Ulster bias on that evening, so for me, it looked forward coming out of hands. But again, it's one of those ones. I think it's one of those ones where, in the situation where it is, Ospreys can feel rightly hard done by, because a lot of those tries we just let go. And then if it had been awarded, then Ulster fans could have felt hard done by, because replays would show that it looks like a forward pass, but depending on which side of the fence you're on in the first place, that pass is going to either look flat or forward to you anyway. So nobody was coming out of that situation there was no situation where everyone was coming out of that scenario happy. So either it was going to be Ospreys or Ulster fans, I think, up in arms at the officiating of the game. So unfortunately for Ospreys, they're the ones that come out on the wrong side of it. La Rochelle then, they started off in the Champions Cup. They start off pretty well. They beat Leicester 39-20, but then they go away to Stormers and they lose 42-21. Then they go away to Leinster. They lose, pretty much final kick of the game, 25-24. And then at home, then capitulation, they lose to Harlequins 27-17. So they drop down to this competition. And they're paired with Newcastle Red Bulls, who are one surprise packages of the pool stages in this competition. Did really well through the pool stages, but despite the game going back and forth and even getting close to going to additional time as well, it was La Rochelle that came out with a win, 26-18, but again, really made to work for that. So both teams close encounters last week, and feels like neither team should really be surprised. Kind of, sometimes teams, they can just kind of sail through competition, and then they meet their first real quality opposition and find themselves 2 or 3 scores behind and not able to recover. It shouldn't happen to either team. It could happen to either team because that's rugby, right? But you feel, both probably battle hardened. It's going to be I think a tough contest for either team. You got Ulster currently 3rd in the URC, La Rochelle then in 9th in the top 14. And last year, both of these teams were eliminated at the round of 16 of the Champions Cup. So, again, probably a little bit of Irish bias with this one, but I'm going to go for an Ulster win in that one. On to then the next quarterfinal, and it is on Saturday, 11th of April. It is a 12:30 kickoff at the Zebre Stadium, and it's Montpellier versus Connacht. And Montpellier have certainly been the most impressive team in this competition so far this year. And looking at the fact that the 2 finalists from last year, Bath, who won it, and Lyon, who were runners-up, are not in this competition, or no longer in this competition. Bath still in the Champions Cup. Lyon eliminated the pool stages of this competition. And in the semi-finalists as well, Edinburgh eliminated in the Champions Cup, and then Racing, who didn't really produce anything this year at all, and knocked out in the pool stages. So I think Montpellier probably be looking at this thinking this could be our year to lift this trophy. So they start out in the pool stages, go away to Black Lion, they win that 24 points to 13. Then they home to Zebre, beat them 31 points to 7. Then home to Connacht, beat them 33 points to 31. So they'd love a repeat of at least the result in that one, maybe not the game itself, because it really was nip and tuck. Then they go away to Ospreys and they win 31 points to 26. And then in the round of 16, then facing a fellow French team, Perpignan, and it's a big win, 53 points to 13. Connacht then in their pool stages start off with a loss to Ospreys 24-21 away from home. Then at home, big win against Black Lion, 52 points to 0. Then, as I said, that away game to Montpellier, they lose 33-31 there. Then home to Montauban, a massive win from 75 points to 14. And then in the round of 16 against the Sharks, fairly comfortable win in the end, 29 points to 12. The Sharks keeping themselves in the game with penalties, but second half, Connacht, I think, added 3 more tries and just took the game away from them. So one thing really stands out here in terms of Connacht is that they've won all of their home games in this competition this year and lost all of their away games, including the away game to Montpellier as well. Montpellier currently 5th in the top 14, Connacht 9th in the URC. Last year, Montpellier knocked out in the round of 16. Connacht knocked out at this stage in the quarterfinals. And, I think if I'm using my head on this one, Montpellier are going to win, but I'm going to use my heart. I'm wearing a Connacht shirt. I'm not going to back against them. Although I'm almost certain Montpellier are going to win, but I'm going to tip Connacht to win that one. Okay, on to the next game, and that is the second game on Saturday. It's 8 o'clock kickoff. It is Zebre Parma versus Dragons RFC. This is the Stadio Sergio Lanfranchi. All URC affair in this one. Zebre 16th in the URC, Dragons 15th in the URC, so both bottom of the table, both eliminated in the pool stages last year in this competition. So, the fact that one of them's getting to a semi-final is going to be a real kind of G-up to their squads. Even the fact that they got to quarterfinals, I think both teams have done really well to do that. So let's see how they got here. So Zebre first. Home to Montauban, they beat them 41 points to 17. Then they go away to Montpellier and they lose that one 31-7. Then they're home to Ospreys, they beat them 23-19. Then go away to Black Lion and they win 28-14. And then last week then against Pau, a pretty comfortable win, 31 points to 15. And Pau dropped down from the Champions Cup as well. So really good win for Zebre there. And Zebre have won more games in this competition. Actually twice as many games in this competition as they have in the URC. They've only got 2 wins in the URC. They got 4 in the Challenge Cup, and the URC as well. They haven't actually won since the second round because they won the first 2 games in the URC. Dragons then, they start off in the pool stage, go away to Perpignan, they lose 41-17, but then meant a good recovery to get out of the pool because they then home to Lyon, they win that one 23-21. Going to Benetton, big loss, 74 points to 21. And then they finish off then against Newcastle, who were looking to be one of the top seeds going into the knockout stages, and they beat them 35 points to 12. Real statement of intent there. And then amazing result last week. They go away to Stade Francais, another real nip and tuck game, and they come out victors 36 points to 31. So absolutely brilliant performance for Dragons. Both of these teams could have just been looking towards next season with nothing to play for, but for one of them, they're going to get into a European semi-final, and it's going to be a bit of a dream season for them, given how things have gone domestically for them this season and in recent seasons as well. So, either way, I think it's going to be a fair story, whoever wins this one. And it's tough because I would have said before last week, the fact that Dragons are away from home, that Zebre win, but Dragons have just gone away to France and won there as well. So it's going to be really close. But then you have to think, can they produce that same level of effort 2 weeks in a row? How much is that trip to France and the effort that they put in to beat Stade Francais taken out of them? So I'm going to edge onto a Zebre win, but hopefully it is an entertaining game. Right, so on to the final game of the weekend, and that is on Sunday. It is a 12:30 kickoff. It's at the Stadio Monego. It's Benetton Rugby versus Exeter Chiefs, and we got 12th place in the URC. Benetton not doing as well as we normally see them in the URC this year. Exeter 4th in the Prem, doing fairly well. They've been rebuilding their squad over the past couple of seasons, and slowly progressing up the table as well and doing better in Europe too. Last year, Benetton knocked out in the round of 16 of the Champions Cup, and Exeter eliminated at the Champions Cup pool stages. So through this competition then this year, so Benetton, they go away to the Lions and they win 26 points to 19. Brilliant win for them down in South Africa. Then they back home against Perpignan, they win that one 44 points to 31. Another home game against the Dragons, big win, 74 points to 21. And then they go away to Lyon and they win that 38 points to 19. Then last week, playing against Cardiff at home, they win 38 points to 35, but not without controversy. Cardiff absolutely thought that they'd scored a try up the other end, with a minute or two or a couple of minutes left on the clock. And, it seemed like the referee was telling the Cardiff captain that the team had checked it in the background and that there was no grounding the ball and there was no try, but we didn't see enough replays of it. And it felt like there was miscommunication there because the referee seemed to be almost like a comedy sketch where the referee was answering the question before. So when he asked, when the Cardiff captain asked, first of all, did they see a grounding? Or some stage he asked, did they see a grounding? and the referee was saying something, and then he said no to that. But by the time he said no to that, the Cardiff captain had also asked, was it checked by the TMO? So, it really was not a very good look for the competition and for rugby. And I felt personally that what they should have done was, referee says, listen, let's stop for a second. Let's talk to the TMO. Let's actually review it, because there was only a minute or two left in the game. Like, what's going to happen? Like, you're not exactly wasting time doing it right at the end when it's a really important decision, and go through it. And maybe it turns out that, yes, there's no conclusive proof that there's a grounding there, and therefore it's no try. But you take that sour taste out of everyone's mouth, because if you're a Cardiff fan, you're thinking, why didn't they check that? If they had checked it, maybe they would have found an angle where it shows that it was actually grounded and it was a try. But that didn't happen. And then if you're a Benetton fan, your team have won, but it's kind of under a little bit of a cloud that shouldn't really be there. So yeah, I think that the officials could have certainly handled that better, and just had the review, and then just have the review put up on the big screen and go from there. But yeah, Benetton did win that one, and that's why they're here. Then Exeter, so they start off in the pool stages, home to the Chiefs. They beat them 42-12. Then they go away to Racing, have a draw, 31-all. And that was basically the high watermark for Racing in this competition this year. Then they go away to Stade Francais. They lose that one 27-25. And then finally end of the pool stages. Looks like they're maybe heading for the exit door, but they get a really big win against Cardiff, 31-0, and that gets them through into the knockout stages. Then they're playing Munster, who've dropped down for the Champions Cup. Munster have been in very poor form recently, and Exeter just blitzed them in the first half, 31-0. And then second half, then Jack Crowley leads a bit of a revival, but it's more about kind of putting a bit of respectability on the scoreboard for them, rather than really, an actual comeback. And it ends up 31-21, but it didn't feel like Exeter were really in any trouble of losing the game. Right, so looking at this then, Exeter, they've shown in the past that they're one of those teams that can deal with adversity and just cling on in there, just dig their nails in, and they're not going to go away. So they're going to make it difficult for Benetton. But I think, again, home advantage, we're going to go for a Benetton win in that one. And then from here, after this weekend, I think we have, 3 weeks. It's the start of May anyway, is when the semi-finals are on. So, once the results are done this weekend, you're definitely going to be having, teams and players dreaming of European finals.